Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, wrapping up the week with good news come early.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you for one more round this week before we get ready for Red Raiders and Bears Saturday, 3 o'clock from Jones Stadium. Chris, coming to you on the other side of his weekly conversation with Red Raider head coach Joey Maguire. So a few things to get into from that talk on a variety of fronts, as it's always a varied conversation whenever you get into it with Coach Maguire and a cavalcade of guest stars as well. But want to get into some things that have been going on the defensive side of the football as far as what it takes to actually implement and take advantage of the new communication methods in 2024. We'll get into some green dot conversation coming up in just a moment. Also, something that I know is on the radar of fans, but I don't even know if it's as much on the radar of fans as it seemingly is for Coach Maguire in this program, and that is the pursuit of an all-time record for Tahj Brooks that he is inching closer and closer to. And, of course, we also want to get to some keys for Saturday's ball game between the Red Raiders and the Baylor Bears. But I don't want to bury the lead, and maybe a little bit surprised to have this lead prior to an official unveiling of sort of an availability report. And a lot of this just comes via you on a pregame show or just eyes in the stands. Who's out there warming up? Who's in uniform? And, man, we had a little bit of a gift come early this week as apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, but Coach Maguire indicates Chapman Lewis will indeed be back on the field and available for the Red Raiders on Saturday. Am I missing anything, or is this just plain and simply good news to celebrate?
Well, so, I obviously with the bye week last week, there was no coaches show. And I started off the show and I said something along the lines of, man, coach, feels like a month since we've been sitting here last night there at Rudy's Barbecue. And I said, well, how was the bye week? And, as Coach Maguire can do, he just kind of took the baton that I handed him and he ran with it in a variety of different directions. I got to go recruiting. I got to watch a lot of football. It was a great win over Arizona. And now we're as healthy as we've been since the Abilene Christian game. And he's like, we got Isaac back. We got Amir back. We got Chappie back. We got, on and on. And so I'm like, so you are a lot healthier. And he's like, yeah, we are. And so somebody asked him later on in the show, I think when he was signing autographs, so Chapman Lewis is back. And he's like, oh, yeah, he's back. So, and so I hadn't misheard it on the air. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know other than Javion Wilcox, who hasn't played yet this year, and then Dylan Shaw, who was unlikely to play at all. I mean, and I think with the Chapman Lewis part, he was like, he made sure to mention that Devin Cromwell would play safety as well. He's like, Devin's going to play still some, kind of what they had talked about with working him in every, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, I don't know, whatever they decide on a rotation. But so, yeah, I mean, unless there's something we've missed in the middle of the week that happened at a practice where somebody wakes up, puking their guts out or something, it seems like you're pretty clean. And I mean, obviously Baylor will be too. I would expect that they would be as healthy, but that's the beauty of the bye week, and so there you go. I mean, I guess your free safety is back now. At what percentage is he? But go back to what we talked about on, I guess it was Monday's show or Tuesday's show about the cleanest injury report that we had early in the week. Yeah. And Joey said, to me, questionable means like 80% or better. And we were kind of like, dang, that's pretty good. I would have thought you listed probable, but yeah. So I think what he was kind of telling you back then at his press conference that it was pretty likely, and maybe we should have listened closer. So my fault for not paying close enough attention, because sure enough, a few days later, and away we go.
Well, man, that's certainly great news. And
Yes.
one of those things that you hope will help you achieve something else that I know is a big point of emphasis in your conversation with Coach Maguire. And it's something that I think Texas Tech has probably done more often than not. We have also seen a game where it was 14-3. Now, of course, they rebound and find a way to get out in front eventually and win that ball game. But getting off to a good start, something every coach in America wants. And we won it again this week. I don't know if it's made more difficult because of the time off, possibly. Do you come out a little sluggish or something along those lines? But I know they want to get started fast out of the gates once again.
Yeah, I think he indicated that may be the biggest. He didn't really say it in these exact terms, but the biggest key may be a fast start. And we had talked about this some as the week went along too, just because it makes sense. You have a team coming off of a bye; they are struggling mightily. If you pounce on them early, you just wonder, where the motivation lies and all those things, and that jug of I quit, may seem a little tastier to them. And I don't know. The one thing that does make me like, do we think that Sawyer Robertson's going to come in here and at any point not give you everything he's got playing in front of a bunch of friends and family? That part I don't buy.
Doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's playing the most crucial position. Kyler Jordan, who is a kid that played at Lubbock Cooper that plays some defense for the Bears, he's one of the hardest playing kids you'll ever see. He just motors nonstop. He's just kind of a tweener, so he wasn't more highly recruited. And so I know does Steve Linton, will he suck down the jug of I quit? I don't know. Bottom line is, I think if you could get off, like, what does it look like if it's 17-0, 24-0, 21-0, 28-0, something like that early? How much fight do the Bears have if you were to put something together? And you wonder. Of course, everybody wants to get off to a fast start. Baylor's going to be saying the same thing. But do you do anything to? How aggressive do you get to try to ensure that? Do you take a chance? Is there a gadget early? Do you do something goofy on special teams? Do you take a deep shot? I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you go for it on a fourth down, saying, you know what, let's try, because some of these things can backfire, certainly. But that's what I wonder when I hear him say that. Like, how much do you want to get off to a fast start? Like, how aggressive do you really want to get? To where you can kind of put your foot on their throat and squeeze if you get the opportunity early. So something to monitor and pay attention to tomorrow at the Jones.
With as good as Texas Tech has been offensively, certainly beginning with the ground game, but allowing that to lead to other things as well. I'm going to vote for not having to trick it up. I hope you just come out and it's your 11 and their 11, and that's why you're able to get off to a good start, because you're able to pound them to get things going. But we'll see. We'll be curious to see, once again, if you have a chance to make a call at the coin toss, what Joey Maguire will roll with, as we've had some different choices selected there as well.
And that can affect you too. You may go, we really wanted to be aggressive, but if we lose the toss, or we're going against the wind in the first quarter, because I think it's supposed to be a bit breezy tomorrow, give or take, which you're kind of used to, and it may not be as bad with the stadium being closed in, but that could affect the way that you want to go about this too, depending on coin toss and maybe the elements, if you will.
I hadn't really thought about that, but I don't guess we've gotten so far this year, one of those good old West Texas days, to really gauge the swirl factor that maybe is a little different now than it used to be.
Because it may be, I think I've said that before, but one of my favorite things as a kid was going to the Ranger games at old Arlington Stadium on I-30, which was just a giant aluminum stadium. And he'd take me, and my favorite part about going to the game was not the baseball. It was like fifth or sixth inning, and he'd let me go to the, get the little helmet and the frozen yogurt, which frozen yogurt
Yeah.
at the time was like showing me fire for the first time. Like, what is this craziness? Like, you just push the little lever and ice cream comes out. But the best was when they just did the chocolate and the vanilla swirl, and they just, they put it in, and you got a spoon, a baseball hat, and it was just this tasty greatness. And you're getting to watch baseball with your grandpa. I'm like, hashtag America, I have made it. Like, kill me now, man. I'm done. I'm at the top of I've won. But we used to have the wind swirling around. Now so that's where it took me a while to get there. But the swirl was the whole point. That's when I think of swirl. That's what I think of. But we've gone from. I just wonder how much of a wind swirl we have now. I guess that's the point. It used to come down that one tunnel. That tunnel is still there, but the way that the stadium worked, it now it's all closed in. You may get a little wind blowing down that tunnel, although it'd have to be direct. Now, granted, you have another tunnel opposite of that, where the visitors tunnel is. I just don't know if there's as much. So if the ball gets kicked up high, I bet it's still a factor, but I don't know if you're going to get as much of the element as you used to, or anywhere close to it. But you're right. We don't really have a way to gauge it yet because we haven't dealt with it yet, but you certainly might tomorrow.
It'd be kind of interesting because obviously there's less swirl space, I guess, as far as the end zone is concerned, a little bit more closed off. But I think those tunnels are actually, there's a bigger space now as they outline them with that concrete. And when you get actually down to the field, there's a bigger space coming out of the tunnel, I guess, than there used to be. So could be really interesting. I mean, once upon a time, it's like, hey, if you didn't like the swirl, just ask a big old gal to stand a little bit closer to the center of the tunnel and you may change it up. But, and I like the thought on the helmet yogurt, helmet ice cream, helmet anything, chocolate vanilla. You look to the cookie, Elaine, and you also look to the helmet for that ebony and ivory working in combination. I think that's what we learned in that moment. Chris, I want to get to another color, a green dot, coming up in just a moment. But first, I want to get to Tahj Brooks because I know we're all following along as fans and excited for his opportunity to break an all-time rushing mark for the program. Actually, a couple, I imagine, before the season is done as far as attempts and things like that. But it really seems like, and I appreciate this about Joey Maguire. First, today's episode brought to you by Hims. Sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we always want to be ready and at attention. Hims provides access to treatments that can help you stay ready for the call of duty anytime, giving you the boost of confidence you need to be at your best. Ever feel like you need a little boost? It's time to stop worrying and get Hims. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Plus, the process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the option that works for you. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized treatment options at hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See our website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. It really seems like, and I appreciate this about Joey Maguire, it seems like we may not even be making the biggest deal out of it as fans. I think it's really on his mind. It seems like it's really on the program's mind, this team's mind, to get him across that line. And obviously he's well on pace to be able to do that. But I can't say it's the first priority for the team, but I don't know if I feel like it's on the back burner either. I mean, I really feel like it's front and center for Coach Maguire, if the game will allow it, to really sort of make a priority of it.
Yeah, he's already missed one game, and we want to look at his numbers on the season. Don't forget that he didn't play in the one game, but yeah, Joey always brings it up, and I think it's like it's something that's important to him because not that that's why Tahj came back here, but it almost feels like that Joey kind of takes it as a responsibility to ensure that one of his best players exits the right way with his name in the record books and all that. Obviously Tahj wants to break it. That's you of course, and everybody on that team would be like, well, heck yeah. But I think it's not a big thing in the media yet. It will be as it gets closer. We've tried to mention it in the broadcast when he passes Bam Morris and when he passes Ricky Williams. And now he's, I think, because Joey brought this up on his own last night, 484 away, I think is the number. And, he was asked a question from the audience, hey, Coach, who is your offensive and defensive MVP? And I didn't know if they were asking about who's going to be that guy on Saturday in the game, or is it going to be after the season? But Joey kind of took it as a after the season kind of answer. And then I'm like, man, folks, he probably loves all of his players equally. Don't know if he'll give you an answer here, but Coach, here's the question. And he's like, well, Tahj Brooks on offense. I mean, he's like immediately gave an answer. He's like, man, it's just, and that's in the midst of that answer is when he brought it up. And he did note, remember we talked early in the week and Joey had mentioned about the backside blocks, and we'd kind of talked about, man, the offensive line needs to hold their blocks longer. Joey indicated that some of that is what caused these fumbles, because it was those players that were poking the ball loose that had come from the backside that weren't blocked long enough. And we kind of got the version earlier in the week at the press conference that there was a lot more yards out there to be had so interesting to note that there could be a lot more out there to get if you'll be better on the backside of these runs, and maybe fewer fumbles or turnovers. But I thought I was like, oh, interesting. So, yeah. I think he was he's like, hey, look, man, we work on ball security stuff all the time. The guys just made plays. But if the players that poked that ball out from Tahj, they just made good plays, but they came from the backside, and we can do something about that, kind of deal.
I thought it was interesting to hear Tahj also mention basically on one of them, he's like, yeah, give credit to the other guy for making a good play. And he sort of said that for the other one too, but he also said, when I was coming down with it, I was down, boat was on the ground. He kind of threw in, like, I'm not sure the officials saw exactly. So there was still a little ambiguity, like, did I actually fumble twice or did somebody miss something? But yeah, sometimes you just got to tip your cap to the other guys as well for
like Jacob Rodriguez did on Teteroa McMillan. And it's funny because he said, so they've watched this is going to change the conversation just slightly, but it has to do with the same thing. There's a lot of boxing analogies going on here with this football team, and Joey's at the forefront of it. We have talked a lot about, boxing things and keep one foot in the tire and first to the fight. I mean, you've heard all these things. But, after the game was over in Tucson, I asked about the Jacob Rodriguez, and he had punched the ball out. And he goes, yeah, we call him the puncher. And so he said, I watched when I went to see the Detroit Lions in the offseason, I talked to Dan Campbell. One of the things that they taught us was don't focus on the turnover circuit or whatever. Don't focus on trying to rip the ball out as much as you do punching it out. And I don't remember how many times the Cowboys turned it over this past Sunday against the Lions, but I think the ball was punched out quite a bit in Irving or Arlington this past weekend. But that's something that they've really tried to ramp up, and it's another boxing thing. One more thing too is, like, remember the conversation we had on the should Tahj have gone down at the 1 yard line and ran the clock out? He's like, one of the calls we have is sniper, which that's what if we want him to go down at the one, we call sniper, like he got shot and he just drops. The other one is no mas, which is if you intercept it, we don't want you to go run around or gain any more yards. Just go down, and the no mas is also a boxing thing from Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran. And I want to say the mid 80s when I think Duran was in the corner and he's like, no más. Like,
Anaste Piedra.
yeah, like I've had enough. And so I started picking up all these things. I'm like, it's another boxing thing and another boxing thing and another boxing thing. And he's got, I don't know, we won't get to see it, but for the team, there'll be something video wise or something somewhere that they're going to get that's very Muhammad Ali related. So I'll just, that he'd mentioned that, but he said he had some Ali for him this week. So I don't know what that entails, but yeah, there you go.
I don't know if it'll be anything better than we got from one of our Matador mobsters, Jason, who 2 weeks ago prior to the Arizona game texted me a video that he had made with AI. And it was
5 minutes long.
It was amazing. It was an entire song and video, boxing, heavy metal music, and somehow there was a jam here about Texas Tech being the first to fight and the last to fold. I don't remember what the catchword was, but either way, I shared it with every other Matador mobster, sent it back out, and people are texting me back about their hair standing on end. Joey Maguire may want to borrow this video before the end of the year.
You asked me to, and I sent this to Coach Maguire and one of Coach Maguire's best friends that I'm on a group text with. It's just mostly random stuff. It has nothing to do with Tech football most of the time. I sent that to them that Saturday morning, and I said, hey, somebody put this together. Been talking a lot of boxing. Here you go. And like 30 minutes later, I get this is awesome. And I get a dude, I'm ready to play right now or something like those lines. So yeah, your work was well appreciated. So
that's our guy, Jason. We may have to throw in a snippet for you guys to taste here on Locked On Texas Tech.
We're the Warriors, we own the field. Every blow we take, we never yield. Most competitive, first to fight. We start the battle, we own the night. Hardest working, we push through. First to the fight, last one standing. What's next? We seize the day. Own the moment, crush every play. Fight Raiders, fight, we find a way. Be the toughest, be the best. Hit 'em, wreck 'em, across the goal. First to the fight, last one standing. In the heat we rise, we stay strong. The hardest working all game long. No challenge too big, no doubt in our way. We own the moment, we seize the day. What's next? We take three and run. No backing down till the fight is won. Put out the fire, extinguish the flame. We are the brand, this is our game. First to fight, rise for the fall. Toughest team, we want it all. Hit 'em, wreck 'em, we're the test. We are the brand, above the rest. Heart pounding, eyes on the prize. We're all in, no compromise. Strap up, we're ready to go. The Matadors are here to show. First to the fight, last one standing. We rise above, always demanding. Hit 'em, wreck 'em, we find a way. Fight, Raiders, fight all day.
Beyond that, however, I want to get to some things happening on the defensive side of the football, Chris. And before we get to the green dot juggling, that's a part of every ball game, I guess, this day and age. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Say you're watching a game, you get hit with a hunch, an instinctual calling. Well, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you're going to place your bets to keep up with everything going down in real time as you submit that slip. And right now, FanDuel is going to get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's right, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with only a $5 bet out the gate at FanDuel.com. You had an opportunity to visit with Ben Roberts, right?
I did. And if we remember back to a little over a year ago, he essentially debuts against the top 10 Oregon Ducks as a redshirt freshman. And I think you and I were doing this show, and the week leading up to it, we're like, oh boy.
A little scary.
Oh, yeah. And not only did he flourish in that game and maybe played as good as anybody on defense that game, he's really flourished since. And his favorite movie is The Water Boy, because he's like, it's this great movie character. It's about football, and all he does is chase after the guy with the ball, and he kills him. He's like, that's kind of what I do. I love it, And I was like, you're making all these great points. That's right.
Yeah.
But he is somebody that is really smart and high IQ. I talked to Jacob Rodriguez as well, and he's also somebody. Just these are great humans. They're really good football players, high IQ kids. It's fun. And one of the things I said, okay, you've got a great mustache. You hunt, you fish, you watch movies, you do the footballing thing. Tell me something about you, or tell these people something about you that nobody would know. And he's like, well, there's this YouTube video. And I was like, whoa, time out, be careful. Like what are you about to tell everybody? And he's like, me and my buddies made a American Ninja Warrior video, of course, and we put it on YouTube. And I'm like, oh yeah. So, and I think it's the Three Amigos or something is maybe who put it out there. So maybe somebody out there can go hunt that down and find it. We can get that thing going viral. But yeah, but one of the football conversations we had, and this is maybe where you're going, was I talked to him back in August, and we touched on this too, about like the green dot.
Yeah.
And he and Jacob both wanted to be that guy. And I think that's kind of you're a made man at that point. Like, oh, I trust you over everybody else to get the call in, and Jacob's a little older, hadn't played a ton more football, but just has got a few years on Ben. And I think Jacob's kind of been that guy most of the time, but it's pretty fascinating how they kind of go about that and what all the options they have in place to kind of ensure that somebody gets the call in.
Yeah. So what was some of the feedback now that it's been in place for a little while? And I remember Coach DeRuiter, describing it not as a substitute for communication, but a layer to communication, or a layer of communication. And obviously, the guy with the green dot is not always out there. So they like swapping around helmets. Are there alternative green dot guys, or how's it worked out to this point in the season, practically speaking?
So I haven't actually mentioned this on the broadcast yet, and it'd be a good time to do it here now that we're going to go over it now. But so Ben and Josh Bookbinder, the inside linebackers coach, was kind of explaining it, and I was like, yeah, I see this guy. I see he's carrying. So he says, because we've got 4 green dot helmets down there. One for I think there's one for Jacob, there's one for Ben Roberts, there's one for Bryce Ramirez, and I think one for John Curry. So at any given time, they could be the one with the green dot, and you're only allowed to have one on the field at a time. So with that, because as I'm mentioning all these players to you, there's a lot of times where multiple of this particular group is on the field at the same time.
Yeah. And
depending on who gets subbed in or out, or whatever the case may be, you're not really sure who's got the green dot helmet and all that. So what has happened is that there's a guy an equipment manager named Austin Nettles. It's part of the equipment staff. And, because I see him down there, and he's just got a handful of helmets just walking around. I think he's got 2 helmets in each hand. So he's always walking around with 4 helmets, which is probably fairly heavy. And now that I think about it, but he said, okay, so Austin worked for the Dallas Cowboys. So the NFL rules are the same, the one green dot. And he goes, so he's always got like the extra green dots or the spares for, like if Jacob is out there with the green dot, then he's got the one that's not. And so they can just constantly swap and all that stuff. But yeah, they're prepared. It's just little stuff like that you wouldn't even think about. You got to have 4 extra helmets that are wired, and then you got to ensure that somebody is managing that only one of those green dotted helmets is out there at a time. And that's pretty fascinating just to think about some of the layers of this stuff, all for simply a layer of communication, as you just talked about with Coach DeRuiter.
Yeah, a whole new kind of thing to literally juggle, and not something that maybe you'd consider coming into. You're like, okay, this is cool. We get a chance to communicate with the guy on the field, and then it's all the other steps that it takes to actually implement that and be ready for those swaps as the fur really starts flying. I'm assuming his bathroom breaks are few and far between.
Yeah, at least when the defense is on the
sorry,
field.
brother, you can't just walk away right now.
Yeah, that's right.
You never know what the game is going to call for. And that's partly why we can't wait to be back at it Saturday from Jones Stadium for that 3:00 kickoff, Tech and Baylor homecoming edition. Looking forward to it, Chris. Enjoyed it all week long, man. Appreciate all the insights and perspectives as always. Enjoy a ball game. We finally got one coming back around.
I know, man. My bucket is officially empty. I feel like we said everything on this space that we possibly could about this game. Time to tee it up. Wear red. Be loud. And then hopefully we get to break down another dub after this one is over.
Yeah.
This one's personal for a lot of folks. I'll just say that. So, enjoyed the week, Cowan. We'll talk to everybody, I guess, maybe a little bit before the game or after the game or whatever we've got. But enjoyed it. Our bucket is officially empty, or mine is. But enjoy your Friday, people.
You never know when you'll be hearing from us. So that's why you want to be subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts, so you never miss a thing. Thank you especially to those everydayers out there all week long mixing it up. Appreciate you so much. And one of the best ways to help us grow the show is to comment anything below. So thank you to those particularly who are doing that as well. Make sure that you're ready for a game day in the best way possible. We're talking boots on the ground conversation inside the Matador Mob. So hit the show notes and look for the link there to try on a free 14-day trial. Love chopping it up with you maniac mobsters just prior to kickoff when you are amped to the hilt. I feel like this is like the most amped conversation all week long is when we're sitting there getting ready for kickoff and everybody's wanting to know all kinds of stuff under the sun. And usually we can kick it to you, including who's Superfan Eric sitting by this week? Is it 3 Arizona State fans, Red Raiders, BBW? You never know who exactly is going to be there in that section. And that's why you want to be a Matador Mob insider. So shout out to those that are already, but there's plenty more room on the boat. So hop on. Appreciate the time all week long. Thank you so much for being out there. Enjoy the ball game. Enjoy the weekend. And we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.